welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to make a video specifically about nursing, accelerated nursing, and I wanted to share my stats with you guys and how I got into two of my top programs in New York City. Well, I know that when applying for these programs there's a lot of stress that comes along with it, and you might not be thinking like your grades are good enough, or you might be having some self-doubt. I wanted to come up here and give you guys some advice because when I was in this process of applying, I was definitely really stressed out. I'm also going to be looking this way a lot because I'm filming at my desk and I have all the information pulled up on my computer. Keep in mind my stats are not amazing. There is a website you guys can use. It's called 𝓒𝓲𝓷𝓭𝔂'𝓼, and then you just type in the program that you're looking for, and then a lot of information will come up with other people that are trying to apply, and usually those who get in will share their stats. Their stats are usually really good. They're like, oh, I have a 3.8 science GPA, my GPA has been like a 4.0, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's not me. That is literally not me. I had a very average GPA, but I think what helped me was my experience as well. My overall GPA at the time that I applied was a 3.6. Basically, like all of my college classes combined was a 3.6. I think my science GPA, if I'm not wrong, it's pretty low. I think it was like a 3.2 or 3.3. I was mostly a B student in a lot of my science prereqs and a couple of A's, but it was definitely mostly B's. I was a very average student. And like I said, I did work, so that obviously did take a toll on my GPA, because if I wasn't working, I would have been able to focus more time into studying. I was working with patients and gaining patient care experience, which I thought was really important. I think one thing that did help me stand out was my experience. So at the time that I was applying, I had 2 years of patient experience, 1 year as a medical assistant in a small pediatric office, and 1 year of medical experience in an internal medicine office. So they were both small private offices, and I was able to gain experience as a medical assistant. I think that I learned more critical skills at my second job, which I am grateful for. Now you guys are probably wondering, you've done all this talking, what schools have you got into? My top schools at the time that I was applying, I really wanted to get into Stony Brook and Suny Downstate, which are both state universities in New York. I really wanted to get into both of them because they are really cheap. I think for Stony Brook the price was like 20 to 30,000, and Downstate was less than 20,000, so that was really optional for me. And my last school that I wanted to get into was NYU, and NYU I didn't really know if I should attend, because after my research it was over $100,000 for accelerated program, which is kind of insane. So the programs that I got into were Suny Downstate and NYU later on. So Suny Downstate replied to me really fast. They got back to me like, I think like within 2 weeks of me applying, which was pretty interesting because I did see in previous cohorts on that website 𝓒𝓲𝓷𝓭𝔂'𝓼 that they got back to students really late. So I guess this year we got lucky. And keep in mind, for Suny Downstate you do also have to take a test called the ATITs. So it's an online test, and they want you to have an 80% and higher for math and reading, and for your science portion they prefer a score of over 80. So for me, I got 95 in both math and reading, I believe, like higher, 95 or higher in both. I found those two sections really easy. Unfortunately, I did make the mistake of just like studying off of old workbooks, and I didn't even realize that I was studying ATI 6 and I was taking ATI 7 or something like that. I think I was like one number thing behind, and those study guides that I was studying off of had a lot of anatomy and like some stuff from bio, like general bio. So that was mostly what I was studying. And then on the test I got slammed in the chemistry section, And yeah, science I did really bad. I think I got like a 60, 68 or 69. That's how bad it was, and I still got in, which honestly I think is all thanks to my letters of recommendation, my essay, and my experience, because it is pretty low for science. But I also think that they did take into account that I got pretty good grades in all of my science prereqs. Honestly, I'm just glad that I got in. But let's move on to other requirements. The test was only required by Suny Downstate. NYU doesn't require any special testing. And for the prereq classes, most of them are pretty much the same. Classes that NYU requires is Anatomy 1, Anatomy 2, Chemistry, Microbiome, Nutrition, Statistics, and Developmental Psych. So that's the NYU requirements, and they're pretty much the same with Downstate. Most nursing schools require like similar prereqs. So they also require Anatomy 1 and 2. So that's 2 classes: General Chemistry, Microbiology, Sociology, or Anthropology. These classes are pretty easy. Sociology and Anthropology are usually like intro classes you can take in freshman year and just get it over with. A Psychology elective, it could just be Psych 101. They just want to make sure you took any psych class. And then Developmental Psych is another one. And then they ask you to have 2 English classes, which are already usually included in your college courses. And then they want you to take statistics and then another college math. For both of these schools, you do need letters of recommendation. So NYU, they require 2, but that 3rd one, you can pick a personal recommendation, which I took advantage of. I asked like another person that I worked with so they could write an essay for me. And then they also require a personal essay for both schools, explaining why you want to be a nurse, why I chose this career field, and why at their school. The good thing about NYU is that they actually give you an essay template when you apply, so you could reply to that essay template and make things easier for you. And then I would recommend taking that same template and just writing for other schools using that same template, because they've already have it organized for you. Okay, so moving on, you guys might be wondering which school I decided to go with. I'll be honest with you, even though NYU is so expensive, like over 100K, I was really excited when I saw that I got in, because at the end of the day, it is NYU. And I also read my financial aid package wrong, so they kind of said like total year tuition cost or something like that, and it said like 60,000, and then I had like a 6,000 nursing scholarship, so it brought it down to like 54,000. And I mistakenly read that as my whole cost for the 15-month program. 54,000 was basically only for that first year, as in the first 2 semesters. It did not apply to the whole program. So basically the whole program was double that price. And at that time, I just became really stressed. I was like, where am I gonna get the money for this? Because my 4-year undergrad, I went to a city school and I didn't have to take out any loans ever. I don't have any student loan debt, thank God. I know a lot of people can't say that. I chose the cheaper options and just went to city schools. I did not go to any private schools. Thinking about it, I was like, 100,000? I can do so much with 100,000. I can buy like more than 1 car. I could freaking put a down payment on a house in another state, not New York City, but in another state with that money. For me, one of the reasons why I chose nursing is because I don't want to be stuck doing one thing for the rest of my life. And I really like that nursing shift, which is like 3 days a week, and then the other 4 days you can explore your own interests, have time for yourself, find your hobbies, literally like do your own stuff. Like you can start your own business, you can work a different job, you could like do real estate, you could travel, you can do so much only working 3 days as a nurse, especially in New York, where a lot of hospitals, they kind of let you pick your own schedule, which is really convenient. I didn't want to take that $100,000 debt, because that money could be going towards me and my life and doing things that I'm interested in. My mentality is like, okay, once I get into this program, I get it done, I graduate, I want to be living the life. Like in my head, I was like, yeah, I got this all planned out. I'm living my life after I graduate. And then that $100,000 loan, that just like crushed my dreams. Like, okay, like basically I'm set back. Like I'm set back a couple years of doing what I really want to do because I have to focus on paying off this loan. Pretty sure you guys know what school I picked. Ended up going with Downstate because it is just so much cheaper. I'm like losing my voice. I'm not used to talking this much, but ended up going with Downstate because it is so much cheaper. Like I said earlier in the video, the Downstate tuition is $20,000. Actually less. When I did the calculations, it was closer to 16 or 17,000 for the entire program. But I'm just gonna make it 20,000, like round it up a little bit for like textbook costs. If we have to sign up for like NCLEX prep, nursing supplies, so I'm just like rounding it up. For Downstate, a lot of our classes right now are hybrid, so we have a lot of online classes, and I think that's really convenient. And then I also learned from a couple people that are currently in the program that their clinical sites are not just in Brooklyn, because that was kind of the impression that I got, was like most of their clinical sites were going to be at their hospital in Brooklyn. But no, our clinical sites are the same exact sites that NYU students get access to. So at that point I was like, okay, I might as well just go to Downstate. And I also took into consideration both schools' NCLEX pass rate. If you guys are applying to nursing schools, please look at this, because I didn't look at this in the beginning. I was thinking like, a nursing school is a nursing school. They're gonna help me pass my NCLEX and I'm gonna be a nurse. So I didn't even know like I should be checking NCLEX pass rates. But then like halfway through my application process, I started to look, and I applied to like one school where NCLEX pass rate was like a 60%, which is terrible, which means the program is just not preparing their students to take the NCLEX well. And probably if they're not preparing you to take the NCLEX, they're not preparing you well enough in class too. That's just my assumption. So Downstate's NCLEX pass rate is over 90%, and so is NYU. So obviously they're both really great programs. That's why I decided to go with Downstate. And I know I mentioned Stony Brook was one of my top schools as well, and I didn't get into Stony Brook. They were my first rejection, but like I'm a big believer, everything happens for a reason. Honestly, it would have cost me more money to like dorm there anyways, and for some reason the dorms there are not cheap. For being in the middle of nowhere, is pretty expensive. I also deposit at both school, and the Suny Downstate deposit was $100, and then you have to pay for your background check, which is another $150. So total cost for that was $250 just for like being accepted into the program, and the cost for NYU, just the direct deposit alone, was $500. So yeah, definitely spent like over $1,000 in this whole process with like application fees and stuff. If you're trying to apply to nursing programs, just try to save up your money, because you will be spending a lot of it just for like sending transcripts and application fees and deposits. It's a lot of money. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in my next video.